All right, well, hey everyone, I'm Mitch Silverstein. I work for Surfrider Foundation as our San Diego County Policy Coordinator. And I'm gonna try to keep it into 10 minutes. If I look over here, Lori, if I look to you, can you show me how many minutes I got? Because I am a rambling hot mess. Cool, so yeah, global problem, local action, that's the theme, let's go. So Surfrider is dedicated to the protection and enjoyment of the world's ocean waves and beaches for all people through a powerful activist network. That's a big, lofty mission statement, as it should be. But we typically break our work into 5 different areas, bigger areas like clean water. Let's make sure the water's clean so that marine life can live there and people can swim and surf there. Let's protect our ocean, things like that. And of those 5 initiatives, plastic is one of the 5 initiatives because that's how bad the plastic pollution issue is when it comes to not only our ocean, but our entire environment. So let's go back in time a little bit to how did we get here. This is the cover of Life magazine, a 1955 issue of Life magazine. And I don't know if you can see it, but it says, the cover says, throwaway living, disposable items cut down on household chores. So 1955, like 70-something years ago? This is like a big post-World War II theme of like disposable living, and plastic had just reached this technological level where single-use plastics coming out of the war effort, which a lot of plastics were used for the war effort as well, and we had all this ramped up production. So here we go, it's a very, a corporate push, and it's eerily, this picture of just plastic waste everywhere and overflowing trash cans, which they did to like really sell us on plastics, is so eerily familiar to where we are 70 years later. When I go to the beach in the summertime and see plastic everywhere and overflowing trash cans. So blew my mind to see that. I think about a couple things here a lot. One is that our reliance on single-use plastics and how much waste we produce is such a new thing. It's only the last 70 years that we've lived like this, and we never lived like this before that. And it makes me think of something that people call shifting baseline syndrome, right? It's that basically this idea that or this gradual change in what we accept as normal due to a lack of experience, memory, and or knowledge of conditions in the past. And essentially us, like our generation, we can't really perceive how much our natural environment, not to mention the culture around how we treat it, has changed because we compare it to this baseline we've established only in our lifetime, not historical. So 99.9% of human history, single-use plastic didn't exist and we got by, right? So let's take a look at kind of like global plastic like overview. So you can see in 1950, 2 million metric tons of plastic produced. And then if you look at 2050, the one in the end, estimated 34 billion metric tons will be produced and 26 billion will be waste. Now, a billion is already like a number we can't even comprehend of. It's 1,000 million. And think of a ton of plastic. Like most of the plastic we're fighting against is virtually weightless. So just kind of like, it's beyond even what I can imagine. But a good thing to note is like on the bottom there, you see of all that plastic, about 80% is accumulating in landfills or our natural environment, including the ocean, and only 9% is recycled. A couple things to know about America, right? First, our plastic consumption and waste we produce is among the highest in the world. I think our, 2 to 8 times the amount per person as most of the world is the solid waste we produce. About 4.5 pounds on average per American, and in a place like San Diego, it's over 5, so we're above average. And I don't mean to like diss anyone, because everyone in this room, we all do such amazing work, but like we're the most wasteful society in the history of the universe, period. So it's good to know that, right? Like where we're starting. In America, there's no national strategy to reduce plastic waste. There never has been. That's why recycling is, as much as we have awesome people like Bob at EDCO, which is like the gold standard as far as I'm concerned in waste management, we're all on our own here. We don't have top-down regulation. Imagine if there was really regulations making sure that certain materials weren't used and only certain materials that were recyclable were used to make people like Bob's job actually a lot easier and get those recycling numbers up. And then this is probably controversial, but it really shouldn't be. But U.S. plastics recycling was never intended to be anything other than a way for producers to skirt regulations on production and shift responsibility for the waste they produce from themselves onto us, municipalities and individuals. And I think that's important for really everyone to think about and really consider and take away today, because we're kind of doing our best in this current landscape, but that landscape was created not for our benefit, basically. So that's why Surfrider's focus is really source reduction. It's the only proven technology, right? We can reduce plastic pollution by reducing plastic production. And this is very focused on the single-use plastics, because of all that plastic made, half of it is just used once for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and thrown away, where it lasts forever. And of course, I don't want to keep dissing recycling like it's not important. Improvements in recycling and waste management definitely play an important role. And then I have these pictures of the zero waste paradigms, and they're all kind of different, which is funny. But you can see that refusing and reducing is always at the top, and recycling is lower, right? We need to source reduce plastics. Which brings us to what I'm doing here today, is that, why global problem, so why local action? Well, all politics is local, shout out Tip O'Neill. But local action basically precedes state, federal, and even international action. And we see that in the case of the California bag ban, right? Over 150 cities took that local action upon themselves before the state was like, hey, cities are speaking to us, maybe we should do something. And that's the same thing is going on with styrofoam or polystyrene foam as well. Also, local's where the power's at. It's really hard for me or you, an individual, to have any say on who the president chooses as a Supreme Court justice. I don't know why I'm using that example, it came in my head. But you can definitely go to your city hall and make some noise, right? And so it's important to do that. Now, why foam? This is a good picture that explains it. It says ban EPS, that's expanded polystyrene, which is styrofoam, foam, polystyrene. I'm going to use them synonymously. So we tend to focus on problematic plastics, right? Let's single out the worst offenders, and we have beach cleanup data to show it. 2019 was the last year we had really good data, and it shows that 15% of everything volunteers picked up at beaches across the county is styrofoam. And Caltrans did a similar study where they studied the percentage of different kinds of debris coming out of storm drains going into the ocean. 15% or so was foam. So that's a very high percentage for just one type of plastic, right? And then again, we're just following that example of let's make local things happen so that the state listens up and we can do it there as well. A couple pictures. This is a beach cleanup very recently, January 7th, a day after a huge swell came and really dumped a lot of plastics onto our beaches so we could see them. This is our Surfrider tent where we're set up to do a beach cleanup. And if I just zone in on where that circle is, you can just see there's styrofoam bits and pieces everywhere. And this is the problem with foam. Where all plastics over time are going to break up into smaller and smaller pieces and end up in our environment, foam does that instantly. It's a good turbo analogy for all plastics, right? One plastic drink cup or foam cooler can become a million pieces of plastic overnight. So that's what it looked like. Here's some other examples. I live in Oceanside, so these are from Oceanside. I'm not trying to diss Oceanside. This can be anywhere. But this is a watershed, the Loma Alta Creek, which ends at the beach. This is what it looked like after the rain. You can kind of see there too, just kind of these styrofoam pieces breaking up everywhere. And listen, there's a lot of plastics that don't float either. Styrofoam just happens to be very light, so it does float. So that's kind of why we did that. I got 1 minute, so let me go into the actual reason I was supposed to speak here today. So yeah, our Surfrider volunteers, launched a Fight the Foam campaign in the city of San Diego in 2018. They'd really been wanting to do this and trying to do this for 10 years, but 2018 was when we felt like we had the right people in the city council, including Chris Ward and Barbara Bree, who are in that picture, to actually make it happen, right? Because we can ask for whatever we want, but we're only going to get what our city council can vote on, or our electeds. That victory occurred in January 2019. There is a lot of people I should be thanking by name. I don't have time, but I just love everyone who had anything to do with this. It was a great campaign. The bad news was that the plastic industry sued the city after we won this campaign, and it did not get implemented. I don't have time to go into all the details on that, but it's a great story, and it just shows you how hard it is to change the status quo. So we redid the campaign in 2022. Again, we had a good, I'm I'm not going to say good or bad, but we had people on the city council who supported this, and I'm very thankful for them for making it happen. And we had a second victory in December 2022. And on April 1st of this year will be the sunset for expanded polystyrene foam in San Diego, and the city's Environmental Service Department is doing a great job with outreach right now. So thank you.